Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki, Nanta Goti Vaishnavinda ki, Namacharya Sridharidas Thakur ki, Prem Sigahol Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivendra ki, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shyamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan ki, Vrindavan Dham ki, Mayapur Dham ki, Munamai ki, Gangamai ki, Tulsi Devi ki, Bhakti Devi ki, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I'm sorry we have bad weather, but at least we're high and dry here.
Aye.
This is not a Vyas Puja, but because we all had such a good time on December 6, 2014, we decided to have a mid-year family reunion get-together. Me, my disciples, and the readers of my books. We're all following in the footsteps of the founder Acharya of ISKCON, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Last month I was visited by 20 devotees from Tuwaco, New Jersey. They have a group that reads the Prabhupada Lilamrita together and discusses it. They came early in the day and they rendered services in the house and outside on the grounds. They cooked and had a picnic lunch. And then at 4 o'clock, I came down and answered questions for an hour and a half. They all wore yellow t-shirts. On the front was printed the words, "How shall I serve you?" and the words, "Prabhupada Sena." And then on the back it said, "Following in the footsteps of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya." I liked that expression, following in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada, because we all are actually doing that. But me and my disciples form an individual branch on the tree of Prabhupada's ISKCON. We are a unique family. Present today is an honorable godbrother of mine, Jai Dvaita Maharaj. I'm honored by his presence. I welcome him. But you'll have to excuse me for speaking words to my disciples and those who read my books, and I hope you appreciate it in your own way. We gather together and I give you guidance through personal association, by rendering service, by reading my books and websites. have given you over 100 books in Krishna consciousness. So you should read my books and study them. They were not written whimsically, but under the direct order of Srila Prabhupada. I was a writer before I came to Krishna consciousness, and after being in the movement for a while, I had a desire to write books. But I was afraid that Prabhupada would see it as competition, because he was writing books. I was afraid he would see me as an upstart, as jumping over. So with fear, I wrote him a letter asking him if I could write books. And here's the answer he gave me. You asked one question about the nature of books. I want you to write as my disciples. On this point, Krishna consciousness is not limited. Persons like all of the Goswamis wrote so many books. Vishwanath Chakravarti and all the Acharyas wrote books, and still I am writing books. Similarly, also, my disciples will write. So any self-realized soul can write unlimited books without deviating from the original idea. The books I have written many years ago, Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, many other books about Srila Prabhupada, the sadhana and japa books, the books of collected writings like Wild Garden and Churning the Milk Ocean, the poetry books, the more experimental books. All of them are not outdated by any means. They're ever fresh and valuable, and that's why I want to keep them in print. I'm preparing a new book. I wrote 3 volumes titled The Story of My Life. But I thought that too many volumes with that title may seem egotistical. So I'm titling the next book, Looking Back, Volume 1. It contains similar contents to the first 3 volumes of the autobiography. It has excerpts from books I wrote years ago with up-to-date comments from today. And it has in 2 parts a special journal that I kept earlier this year. That book will be available by Vyas Puj at the end of this year. My disciple Hariyasva is very enthusiastic to read my books. He tells me about a book that I wrote in the past that he's reading now. And he says he didn't get it the first time he read it. But now that he's reading it again, he's excited by it and he's seeing new lights. When he talks to me about reading the books, I get enthusiastic. So after I speak, I'm going to ask Hariyasva to speak his realizations about reading my books and how he can share the reading of my books. You've heard me speak about my legacy project. I want to see all of my books in print now and after I leave my body. For 3 years at Vyas Puj, I described the legacy concept. And now someone has finally done something about it. Ishvara Govinda was initiated by Radhanath Swami. Formerly he was Igor from the Ukraine, has created a wonderful legacy website, www.sdglegacy.com. He is gradually posting all of my books in ebook format, and the website has videos, audios, paintings, photographs, and much more. And he's just beginning. He has many other concepts that he's developing. Since Ishvara Govinda is relatively new to this group, I would like him to stand up so you can all recognize him. Ishvara Govinda. Now that you know him, you can approach him and thank him for the tremendous service that he's doing. My artwork is another important contribution by me. The leaders of the ISKCON institution, MOSA, M-O-S-A, Museum of Sacred Art, came to our ashram twice from Europe and spent many hours looking at my paintings. They selected 100 paintings which they're going to exhibit in a one-man show next year in a gallery in Europe. And simultaneously they're going to publish a book with digitized photos of all the paintings in the exhibit. MOSA also published a 2-volume encyclopedia of sacred artists. There are over 200 artists in the book. Many ISKCON artists, many Indian artists, and tribal artists from India. And he devoted 4 pages to my paintings. This is a great breakthrough for me, this recognition. I had recognition about 10 years ago with a one-man show at Govinda's Gallery and a favorable review in the Washington Post. But this is bigger. Some devotees don't appreciate my art, even some of my disciples. They think it's a hoax. But that's because they don't understand outsider art. Outsider art, also known as naive art, or in French, art brut. There's also a magazine I subscribe to, Raw Vision, which defines it. Raw Vision magazine contains the work of outsider artists from all over the world. Outsider artists are usually self-taught, and their work has an immediacy and honesty, and is often on spiritual and religious topics, and is appreciated by art connoisseurs as genuine art. So MOSA wouldn't have taken an interest in my art and be enthusiastic to exhibit it if it was a hoax. I'm going to ask Baladeva Bijabhusana to speak also after I finish. He has prepared materials for you. He has bags of free books and a list of services. At the break, you can go to his table and look at the list of services, and if possible, pledge to do some service. I can think of 2 services myself which are urgent. The typist, I forgot what I wanted to say. Backing up, you should read Iswar Govinda's website. You should also read my daily website, sdgonline.org. It contains a poem written by me every day at 3 o'clock in the morning. The website starts off with writings from the Acharyas. Right now we're posting excerpts from books on Navadvip by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And then we're going to do his songs. Then follows a japa quote, and then a japa poem based on the quote, and then a japa report, which is a play-by-play description of the 16 rounds I just chanted. The japa report is repetitious, but so is japa, chanting the same mantra over and over. But there's variety in my report also. I just received a letter of appreciation for the japa report posted on Facebook. I'd like to read it to you. I just want to thank you for your steadiness in writing. I look through this website each morning, first thing, and it really inspires me in my japa attempt. I've been reading every day for several months now, and during japa, a lot of what you said comes back to me. Quote, mechanical chanting, just here, long haul, holding the beads until finished, etc. Unquote. Thank you very much for the inspiration and guidance. Hope to serve you and your servants sometime soon. Jai Girid Hari Das. So getting back to Baladev's list of services, there are a couple of services that come to my mind. One is, well, the SDG Online website is excellently illustrated and typed by Guru Das, and it's posted on Facebook by Shama Goparupa. But in August, Guru Das won't be available. We're sending him to Mumbai to go to the Bhaktivedanta Hospital for a health checkup. I don't think anyone can replace him as an illustrator, but I need a typist so that I can continue to post the website during August. Without the illustrations, the typing only takes a couple of hours. Narayan Kavacha sends my dictation at 6 in the morning to the typist, and you have all day to type it. So I hope someone will volunteer. Another service is, in our ashram, we always need another devotee besides me, Narayan Kavacha, and Baladev. to maintain things. We have a forum or a committee that searches for people and forms a calendar. For example, we have someone coming in August. We have someone for the first week of July. But for the last 3 weeks of July, we don't have anyone. So if someone consider please volunteering to come and serve in the ashram for the last 3 weeks of July. I look out at you and I'm very glad that you've all gathered on this rainy day. Before I finish, I want to mention that after I talk, I intend to answer questions. Holiday from Trinidad has been handing out pieces of paper, I hope, and I want you to write down a question. I haven't got many of them yet. I want the questions to be on the concept of the legacy, the concept that my disciples form a family, and any question in general that a disciple asks the Guru. After I answer the questions, we'll have a feast and more kirtan and a break where you can mix. And then at 4 o'clock I'll come back and give a talk on the 50th anniversary of Prabhupada coming to America. Before I finish, I want to mention 2 devotees for outstanding service. I hesitate to do this because you're all dear to me and you're all doing wonderful service. But I'm impelled to do this. The first devotee I want to mention is Satsvarupa. He purchased the house that I live in, which I call the Raha Bhavan. I'm very happy there, doing my bhajan and writing, and I don't wish to leave. I've been getting a couple of headaches a day for months now, and it causes me stress when I travel. So he's provided a nice facility for me to preach on the web. He also pays the electric and water bills and other bills, and he purchased me a car. He's a family man and is supporting 3 children in expensive schools. And he's the head of a big business, Equal Vision. And he's an intense sportsman, but he never neglects my needs. He's a very Krishna conscious person. Sachi Sudha doesn't pay all the bills, so you can consider chipping in. There's a man from Florida, Radhabalava, who sends me $15 every month. And Hemagora sends me $31 a month. So every little bit helps. The other devotee I want to mention is Ram Roy and Harinam. Ram Roy served for many years in the 24-hour kirtan in Krishna Balaram Mandir in Vrindavan. And he was an intimate friend of Indra Prabhu. After Indra Prabhu disappeared, Ram came to America and he began doing Harinam in Union Square, Manhattan, with the people. He's been doing it for over 3 years now, with a group that follows him. And Abhiram is there. They go out 7 days a week and they hold kirtan for 6 hours. Ram Roy would like to see more people doing Harinam. I have a disciple named Krishna Kripa who's a brahmachari who travels all over the world visiting different temples where he induces a few people to go out with him on Harinam. You can consider doing that in your area, inducing a few people to go out on Harinam. It not only benefits the people that you chant for, but the people who form the Harinam party form bonds. I have disciples who belong to rival temples in Queens, but if they would go on Harinam together, they would settle their differences. So consider going on Harinam. Now I'd like to introduce Hariyasva to speak. Hariyasva. Yeah.
Yes. So,
Please use the microphone. Thank you. Prabhu, no one
Okay.
can see you in the camera. You have to stand, no one can see you. It's being recorded for posterity.
okay. Well, they can still chastising me.
Move over.
Hello, family.
Haribol, Hare.
So, you know me. First, I'd like to offer my obeisance to Judge Goswami also. I'm so grateful to see him here. But as I said, you know me, and I'm the one special from one of you guys. And we read the same books. But at some point, I felt that I needed a little more, just in my Krishna consciousness. So I began to go back through Guru Maharaj's books. And I just was shocked. When I went to the Japa Reform Notebook, I was so floored that the first thing I did was went to Guru Maharaj and apologized, because we read those books so long ago. I thought I did, but all the things that I was appreciating in other books on the Holy Name by a few of Guru Maharaj's God brothers was already in there in his books. So then I began to pay attention as I read, and then go through Copper to Touchstone, and just overwhelming how good that was. And so we start having a class on Copper to Touchstone. Some of the devotees would come over, or they're new devotees, they would come over on Friday nights, and we begin to go through the books. But there's so many books, you know the books, and you know how we've been going through them. And I've become so excited about it because it's enthusing me. And I figure it's time to enthuse him as he's enthusing us. So these books in the last couple of years, when we have Vyasa Puja, Guru Maharaj has not been shy to say just how much these books are very, very dear to him, how close to him they are. And I've come to understand that they're so important to him because they give in his heart. When we listen closely, we get to really hear his voice. That relationship that we're looking for becomes more developed the more we read these literatures. For me, it's happening like that, and I'm not special. So I remember, as Prabhupada said, if you want to know me, then read my books. And similarly, as I'm going through Guru Maharaj's books, I hear his voice differently, and I tell him that. And the other aspects of worship begin to become a little more pronounced and clear just from reading these literatures. So again, I now come to the point that in reading these books, I just like to say this. We've been doing this for some time. We've been coming together. We're disciples. We're a family. But we can go further. And that impetus will come from pleasing our spiritual master. I don't have anything special to tell you except that I love these literatures. And these literatures are enthusing so many people. Still, the young people that come by my center tell me how much they appreciate these books. And one young man says, oh, this is the author of, I told him I'm going to see my spiritual master. He said, is that the author of the Prabhupada books? And then another young man told me just the other day, he said, I told him I was going to see Guru Maharaj, and he says, oh, Satsvarupa Das Goswami, he's my favorite artist. It's always stories like this. I had one whispered in my ear by Baladev, by the young boy from Canada, who called him and says, Satsvarupa Das Goswami, I love reading his books. His books are so wonderful to me. So these stories are there. But now it's our turn. It's our turn to read the books. Why? Because they were written for us. It's his reflection of love. In these books, he's pretty much saying, I love you. I've gone through Prabhupada's books. And now he's explaining them in an easily understandable way, so that we too can move forward in our process of Krishna consciousness. What to speak of the morning, how he tells what goes on in his morning japa, all his morning activities, the process of Krishna consciousness right before our eyes. So I don't want to get busted because I'm not supposed to speak too long. But you get the understanding. It's there for us. We should read these books. And the next phase is that there's a warehouse back at the house, which they have a lot of books there. We can distribute those books because we used to do this. We should wipe that place out. We read these books, we become enthusiastic, and then we distribute those books and send the proceeds back to help print new books. I think my 5 minutes is up. Thank you so very much. Hare Krishna.
His enthusiasm has to be practically implemented by service. So I'm going to call on Baladev Vijayabhusana. He'll tell you about services you can do.
I feel more comfortable if this is a phone. Let me see my notes here. As far as I was saying, the reading and the distribution of the books is so important. It's something we can focus on together. And that's been spoken of, especially the last few years. So I was thinking that, we can use, everybody has Prabhupada's books, even if they're on the shelf, with the intention to read them sometime when we're near death. But they're auspicious, even an intention is pleasing and auspicious, what to speak of actually reading them, or giving them to somebody. And you even get credit if somebody comes in and borrows one and may not even give it back. All auspicious. So, we're demanding that everyone clear those tables today. Today's take-home giveaway day. There's bags there. the first two, was it 50 bags, 48 bags, good strong canvas bags that Vishnu Radhanam and Leelavatar have encouraged people to carry books away with. And then there's another table of books that we've had in our garage for 5 years, and before that they were in a storage area for 3 years. So it seems really unfortunate that we don't have them on the shelves, we don't give them to friends, we don't talk about them, read them, etc. So here's an opportunity, and almost a sacred duty is to empty those tables today. The front tables are examples of how many books there are. That box is books that aren't in print as books. A lot of them are the Everyday Just Right volumes. There's 77 volumes. They're there just to see. And underneath there's 4 or 5 manuscripts that haven't even gotten that far. On that shelf in the bags, there's a book on each side. They haven't seen, no one has seen them. They're one of a kind. And so that is just a sample of what's not even started the process of printing. The next 2 tables are other samples of books that we have on hand. There's others in India. There's another 50 books floating around that we don't even have for display. And on this end table we'll have more books that Ishwar Govinda has, or actually it's Chaitanya Chandradoya who brought them from the stage of manuscript to electronic form. 50 books are up already on the website. By next week, all the EJWs will at least be in electronic form, and then we'll display the 20 books that are almost ready to go up on the website, and that's a good service area. Ishwar Govinda will sit there and explain, will be samples of pages that examples of what needs to be done, and just if you have the enthusiasm to try to serve, or if you have an inclination, you can type and proofread, that kind of thing, or if you have just the enthusiasm, he'll train you to bring books like that up to the standard that they can be put up on the website, and they can be read on the website, they can be downloaded. So that's another immediate service. On this table here, an even more immediate service, which Raj has mentioned, is the website, because that's the daily outreach preaching that he does. So that he'll be sitting there between 2 and 3. If people are interested, I think can use more than one typist, even if everyone takes a few days to put in on that, and he'll organize that. He'll tell you what he needs. So there's those services coming up that are available. In terms of what Hariyash is doing to expand what he's already doing, we're going to go electronic or digital with that, whatever you call it, into a phone sangha, something like Dhanardhar Maharaj has every week, or it can be every 2 weeks, where everyone reads a certain part of the books, a certain number of pages or chapters, and he'll get some direction from Guru Maharaj how, what he wants the disciples to get and readers to get out of that book. There's so many things. And then, so Ishwar Govinda again will set that up, and we'll put the information out on the 2 websites. And that's a very current thing, it should be together within the month, and as soon as it's together, Guru Maharaj himself will join on different occasions, and hopefully this will be the pilot. America will be the pilot for other groups of devotees around the world. There's pockets of devotees that can do the same thing. So that's another direct response and a service. Actually beam in every week or whenever you can is a way to read the books together, even though we're in so many different places, and hear each other's realizations. So that's a service, and it would be good it's necessary to leave cards. We have some index cards. Anyone interested in that, we need their email to send out the codes, PIN codes to get in on the forum. And in general, if we could get everyone's email or contact information, then we can send out books. We can, you can be involved in different forums, different services as they come up. So that's another service you can do, is get it together to fill out an index card that could be read, and do that today. We have like business cards with all our contact information on it, the website, Guru Maharaj's email address for writing letters. We should dispel right now the lingering doubt that you should even write to Guru Maharaj because he gets headaches. It's one thing when he's getting 100 letters a day or a week, and now it's down to maybe 10. So it's an illusion. He does like to answer mail and connect with everyone that way, and if you know anyone that's dead, you can put a pen in their hand and tell them to say, at least that I am alive. So that's another service, to outreach to other devotees that for whatever reason have gone dead, or at least cold. And they'd be surprised how quickly. And we have basically an open door policy for people to come and visit. Of course, it has to be scheduled. And, that contact information is there. So just by preaching to other devotees what you're experiencing here and what you'll experience more as you get involved, what it's like to be back together again as a group. So those are other services, immediate. And there's a servant, to try and fill the schedule for help around the house on feet, literally. And so I just can't do it all anymore. Superman is gone. I can't fly, my wings are broken. So, there's 3 of them. Anyway, so Madonna Gopal is here. He can, oh yeah, right here. You want to stand up, turn around? So you can get in touch with him. He'll give you, what's your, well, we'll write down his contact information. He, Yadunandan Swami, and Jai Govinda so far are members of this forum to, try and fill the schedule for the whole year so we're not like going week to week. The longer you can stay, the better, and get training, and the more often you can come back, like once a year, then the training can, bring a notebook and be serious about, doing that every year. That's another service. And also start practicing your recipes, and make your own offerings to Guru Maharaj. You have all year to practice, so I cook the way I cook, you cook the way you cook, make your own offering. Another thing, a side benefit is if there's 2 people, then for an hour or 2 a day, we can go out to the art shed. We now have a proper facility for storing the art, and so one thing that has to be done for several thousand paintings, we've done 300 so far. 300, and then there's, there's another 1,500 or so. And Guru Maharaj will look at them, they get held up, he looks at them, gives them a title, we measure the size. There's 4 fields that are needed, for anyone, any gallery, any collector, whatever in the world that they want to know. The size, the composition, the title. So then that can go up on the website. Right now there's 100 paintings on the website that have been completed like that. Photographed by Govinda, and then Sachi. There's another 100. The 100 that went to Mosa were done by Sachi's photographer at his business. So that's another thing that goes along with being servant, is also helping in the art project. It can't be done by one person, 2 or 3. And Guru Maharaj is directly involved in that. So, alright. Anyway, we'll all be set up at the tables. Come over, sign up, do what you gotta do. I just did what I had to do. And I'm out of here.
Keep sending up questions, I don't have so many. From Baladev Das of Trinidad. What example would you like to see us set for Srila Prabhupada's ISKCON as a family? One thing I want to mention is that my disciples don't form a cult. We're part of ISKCON and we serve with devotees of other gurus, and we serve Prabhupada's disciples. Just like Ram Roy is my disciple, but on his party there are none of my disciples. So, we're part of the big family of ISKCON. And I'd like to see my disciples mix with all devotees. Hariyasva asks, why do you write books, and what would you like your audience to receive from reading them? I write books because I have to. I love writing. I would like my audience to be entertained and enlightened in Krishna consciousness. Can't see it. Oh, this is from Radha Raman in Connecticut. For your disciples who are in or nearing retirement age, can you please discuss the Vanaprastha ashram and suggest some guidelines or practical steps for making advancement in our spiritual life and our relationship with you during this stage of life? So Vanaprastha is for grihastas. It's a stage where their children are grown up and off on their own, and they cease having sexual relationship, and they serve together as friends and emphasize more the spiritual aspect of life, going to holy places, minimizing their material needs. As with their relationship with me, it should intensify now that they don't have their children to care for. You can read my books and correspond with me. And become closer. Kirtan Rasa writes, I don't think books will ever go out of style, but it is a fact that literature is being delivered to readers in a wider variety of formats than any other time in history. One of my favorite ways to, quote, read is to listen to books on audio, CDs. I listen while I drive and sometimes I listen at home. What do you think about recording some of your books to audio and placing them on both CDs and iTunes? They could be heard through iPods and other devices. I especially enjoy listening to books read by the author of the work, but many are read by voice actors or others with a good speaking voice. The format is a simple one, no special effects or musical soundtrack, just a voice reading the words. Would you like your disciples to explore producing one or more of your books in this way? Yes, I welcome this. I don't know about hiring voice actors, but some of my devotees have good voices. Ekayani is an actor. You can record my books. Kirtan Ras is really into it. He listens to books all the time. So contact me about it if you have a good reading voice and you're interested. I would like them done the way it's described here without music in the background. Here's a question from Satsvarupa, very esoteric. In the afterlife, do all the disciples go with the spiritual master wherever he goes? What if the spiritual master goes to the local Vrindavan, but the disciple is in the mood of Chaitanya Lila, in the mood of reclaiming lost souls? I like the prayer of Yamuna Dasi, which was recorded in the book by Dina Tarani. She said that Yamuna Dasi prays that she wants to go with Srila Prabhupada in the spiritual world. That's what she prays. Or, if he's in the material world preaching, and she wants to go there, she wants to be with him. I discussed this with Jayadvaita Maharaj and he endorsed this prayer. He said he wouldn't want to be hanging out with Krishna in the spiritual world if Srila Prabhupada was in the action in the material world. So you should pray to your spiritual master to be with him in the next life, wherever he is. When we present your books to academic libraries and professors, what would you recommend we tell them? And which 3 to 5 books should we emphasize? You can say these are books by a disciple of the greatest Vedic authority, Swami A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And that he's been ordered to write by his spiritual master. But he writes from a Western mindset that's accessible to people of the West. And for books to recommend, I would recommend the Prabhupada Lilamrita, Vaishnava Compassion, and Copper to Touchstone, on impurity, from, what's it called?
Perfection will come about.
From imperfection, purity will come about. So many ISKCON devotees are accustomed to distributing Srila Prabhupada's books. Other than Lilamrita, devotees are unfamiliar with your books. Could you kindly address ways these devotees can become more comfortable distributing your books? Well, my disciples are not familiar with my books. I don't ask other devotees to distribute them, unless they are fond of my books. I'm not in competition with the BBT. When she was well, Leela Avatar liked to distribute my books. So you have to love the books, and then you'll desire to, you'll be comfortable to distribute them. Prabhupada said, my disciples are expert at distributing my books, but they don't read them. So if you read the books, then you'll want to distribute them. Lalita Manjari asks me what memory or interaction or pastime with you and Srila Prabhupada stands out as the most and had the most impact. It's hard to narrow it down to one thing, but my memories of 1966 are of the ones I treasure the most. First coming to Prabhupada at 26 Second Avenue. And he was so much accessible. And we were a small family of devotees. That first year stands out the most. You write books in part to make devotees more appreciative of your own divine master, Srila Prabhupada, and his books. But your books are so clear. For what reason is there for your disciples to write? Well, I read the letter from the Prabhupada. He said it's unlimited. Any self-realized soul can write books. So if my disciples desire to write, that's welcome. They shouldn't think there's nothing left to write about. Everyone is original, and everyone has their own thing to say. Study Krishna consciousness, study Prabhupada's books, and you'll get realizations. It's easy to say things, easier to say things than maintaining it practically. How do you think in Grihastha life we can maintain perfect Krishna conscious life? It's pretty hard. Prabhupada said all the grihasthas are a little bit in Maya. And you can try to be grihastha, not grihamedi. Grihastha is an ashram where Krishna is in the center and there are deities at home. And husband and wife are devotees, and they serve their spiritual master and Prabhupada and Krishna. And life can be harmonious. If they cultivate non-devotee activities, and their relationship will not be harmonious. This next generation is different. The children today are not in gurukulas. My children love the book My Dots and the Mouse. There are more fiction books. Can you write more fiction when you are finished with looking back? I don't think so. I think I don't know what's ahead. But I've always had a ambivalence about writing fiction, although I've written quite a bit of it. I don't know what's ahead. The moment of death is coming for us, but it's so easy to forget. What are some practical ways to remember this? Prabhupada said philosophy means to keep death in your front. Our bodies are mortal. Birth, death, disease, and old age. Trying to be prepared for death. If possible, we all want a nice death surrounded by Vaishnavas chanting to us. But it may be abrupt. So we should chant as if this is our last chance. Not think we have 1,000,000 years to live. Maharaj Parikshit knew he had 7 days, but we don't know if we have 7 minutes. Read Krishna conscious books about the spiritual life. In this way you're prepared for death. Your mind will be saturated with thoughts of Krishna if it comes suddenly. You should be thinking of Krishna always, thinking of his lotus feet. And then you'll go to him. Prabhupada gives us so much encouragement in his books that if we follow his path, we'll go back to Godhead. So we don't have to be morbid. We can live. Celebrate devotional service. And if we're taken away suddenly, we can call out Krishna. Ekatvam just told me about my disciple Murari, who was always an old woman, even when I met her first. And she recently passed away. At the end of her life, she had Alzheimer's disease, and she couldn't recognize any of the devotees. But she was lying in bed chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. The devotee said to her, take your japa beads. She said, what are japa beads? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. She had forgotten everything, but she remembered the Hare Krishna mantra, and she kept chanting it up until the moment she passed away. Many Prabhupada disciples reminisce about the old days when devotees spent long hours every day preaching on Sankirtan or Harinam. How to get back to that mood, since service now is just as vitally important as it was then. Whatever your service is, if you're a parent taking care of little children, or you maintain a job as a grihastha, or you're free to preach, you should remember Krishna. Be very regulated and don't waste a moment of your life. Always be serving. And you'll be in the mood of the devotees of the old days. One of the symptoms of steady bhava is that he never wastes a moment. Always anxious. Am I serving Krishna? These are announcements. The importance of staying for the afternoon lecture you have prepared. Don't just run after lunch. This is an offense, or at least inappropriate. Yeah, I have a nice presentation about Prabhupada's 50th anniversary of coming to America, speaking and reading some from the Prabhupada Lilamrita. It was year 1965 and the beginning years of 66, stopping short of 26 Second Avenue. so please stay. Join in Kirtan with Ram Roy from 3 to 4. What is this? Who's coordinating the website? Holiday forgot to mention that Narayan Kavacha is coordinating the website, and he's sitting at the table to my right. That's all the questions I have. I would like to ask Jai Dvaita Maharaj to speak for a little while, and then we could take lunch.
Following in the footsteps of Satsvarupa Maharaj, I'd like to take this opportunity to plug my book. This is Vanity Karma, Ecclesiastes, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Meaning of Life. I'm very much indebted to Satsvarupa Maharaj for the inspiration to write books, or to write a book. He's done 100, I've done one. It's available for pre-order on Amazon.com, and if you pre-order it, it drives it up on ratings. So it's like a like or a vote or a. Plus you get the book when it comes out, which is September 28th is the release date. Maybe I'll speak a little bit about it. Ecclesiastes is a very unusual book in the Bible, the Old Testament of the Bible, because it starts out with the salvo that life has no meaning. The speaker is frustrated. He says, I've tried wisdom. Wisdom just made everything worse. The more you know, the worse it is. I tried enjoyment. That certainly didn't work either. So then what's left? And he complains that life has no apparent meaning. Or not only does it have no meaning, but it's contradictory. It's out of sync with the way things ought to be. If the world were fair, if things worked right, then there'd be consistency, there'd be justice, and there's just the opposite. The world is a mess. And God has stuck it on us that way. So a very unorthodox speaker in the Old Testament, and he raises questions that matter for every human being and every devotee also. So I take those themes that he brings up and speak to them from the viewpoint of Bhagavad Gita and Srila Prabhupada's teachings. And that's what the book is about. It's not light reading, it's certainly not a feel-good book, but I think it is a contribution. Apart from that, I'm very satisfied to see so many devotees here gathered on this occasion with Satsvarupa Maharaj. Having dedicated his whole life to Srila Prabhupada's service, he's continuing in that same line. And we get so much benefit from hearing his Krishna conscious thoughts, his transmission of what he's heard from Srila Prabhupada. Then I was thinking while he was speaking, we always sort of have, I think both of us have in the background of our minds someplace, there's this sort of unknown and somewhat threatening entity called devotee opinion, and especially the GBC. And what would they be thinking about whatever it is that I've been doing at this moment? And there was someplace they were off there and asking, well, what about Satsvarupa Maharaj, or what about Chaitanya Swami? And I was just thinking of that as Satsvarupa Maharaj was answering questions, and reflecting that the answers are so to the point, so right on target, and so very orthodox, so very faithful to what Srila Prabhupada presented, that even the GDC would be satisfied. Maharaj says he hopes so. Well, that was my 5 minutes. Did you? I can speak more. I was